This is the reality of trucking. It's the Trucker Ray Podcast. Coming to you from somewhere in North America. Here he is, Trucker Ray.
Hi everyone, it is Ray Gaucher back with you once again. I am Trucker Ray, and this is the Trucker Ray Podcast. I know it's been a while since we've been on here. Lots of stuff going on, and first of all, I want to apologize for the extra background noise that you're hearing, the vibration. You might hear the air conditioning unit. We are in Arizona, in Rio Rico, as a matter of fact, and it is extremely warm here. And for those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, we do our podcast right out of our truck, and we pull a lot of reefer trailers. So once in a while, you're going to hear a reefer in the background. Sometimes you won't, but it's something I can hardly avoid. So that is the reality of this. This podcast is that you're kind of hearing everything raw, kind of the way we do things here. And so again, we're out here in Rio Rico. We're delivering a load of cherries into Mexico, probably a little bit later on. And lately we've just been extremely busy, lots of stuff going on. And just this time of the year is a very, very sobering part of the year for me, because it's my daughter's anniversary since she died. And so we usually take time off for that. And even sometimes the entire month of July is a write-off. So now that that's passed, we can move forward, and I wanted to share with you a little of something that I want to do regarding the podcast. I want to, of course, continue to do what we do, and we love providing the regular content that what I have been providing. However, the other episodes of the podcast, even though they've been fun to listen to, they've kind of drawn a little closer to the secular side of it. And I do apologize for that. Some of the rants have been really a rant, because I have that feature, Rant and Rave. And however, the rest of the content on the podcast has been good. It's been clean. You can have your children even listen to it, even the rants. But there's one thing that it is missing, and that is a little bit more touch of why I'm out here on the road in the first place. And that is to not only do my job, share God's beautiful scenery as I do on my YouTube channel, but to share the word of God, to spread the gospel. And that really hasn't been so much shown on the podcast itself. And that is something that I'm going to change. Now, before you shut it off and run away and say, oh, here he goes with his Bible thumping again, just take one look around you and compare it to the way things in this world were 15 years ago. Just go back 15 years, even 10 years. It is absolutely insane how things have accelerated. Now, you can ignore whatever I say. You can ignore the signs. And a lot of people do that. They do that specifically with several ways. They do it with drugs. They do it with alcohol. They do it with social media. It is so easy to go on YouTube and binge watch. They've got these. I've done this myself. They've got videos on there where you can watch videos of animals doing really cute things, and it just makes you laugh. And there's so many of them, and you can literally binge watch these videos and anything else that's fun. You can spread messages on your social media to your friends and totally ignore what's going on outside your window and what's really going on. And there is a difference between knowing and being informed, the difference between that and overdoing it. And I have been doing that lately. I've been overdoing it by watching a lot of YouTube videos on the craziness that's been going on. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Just the craziness that's going on over in Washington. The craziness that's going on over in the Middle East. It is unbelievable what's going on around us. And I can't think of a better time to seek God, because he's got the answers to all these things. For anybody out there that thinks there is no God, you are delusioned. I'm sorry if you take offense to that. But all of this didn't just appear out of an explosion. There is a God. The Bible is true, and the Bible also says that when we see these things happening around us, like the days of Noah, like the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, look up and just look up, because your redemption draws nigh. We are in last days, friends. What we see going on around us is not... Most of my listeners are intelligent. And if you're a brand new listener, I would like to say you're intelligent. Just be honest with yourself and look around. Like I said earlier, have you not noticed things have gotten a lot more evil in this world, a lot more crazy, selfish, you name it, prideful in the last 15 years? It's out of control now. Can you imagine? And now it's actually acting at it's going at an accelerated rate. And the Bible also speaks about that. Now, before you write me off completely and think that the entire podcast is just going to be about that, it's not. But I am going to voice my opinion on how I'm dealing with things day to day as a Christian truck driver. That's what my YouTube channel is about. It is about life on the road with my Savior, Yeshua. And I get to share my journeys and my experiences and the beautiful scenery, what it's like to be a Christian out on the open road. It is challenging. It is challenging. It's not just drive down the road, la, la, la. You're being surrounded by everything, by lots of distractions. Every truck stop's got a casino. Fortunately, I don't have any issue with gambling. But there's distractions everywhere to lead us away from that. And you know what? It's a sad life. There are casinos inside of truck stops, especially in Nevada, and I don't know if there's really too many of them in... No, let's just say Nevada. And you go into these truck stops and you walk... Sometimes I walk into the casinos just to see how many people are in there. And I study the people. I do. I can walk through a room and study a lot of people and walk right out. I don't have to stare at people to study them. They don't look happy. They're smoking their cigarettes. They're actually chain smoking, because a lot of these casinos in these truck stops in Nevada, they allow smoking. So not only are they smoking away like crazy, they're just putting their money in these machines, trying to find something to satisfy an emptiness that's in their heart. And that's just one thing. That's just one thing, gambling. Then there's alcohol. And the alcohol is extremely abused out on the road, because you see it everywhere at truck stops. Every truck stop sells liquor almost in the U.S., almost every one of them. You see the empty bottles and empty cans all over the place at a lot of the truck stops. You see them in the garbage cans. So that's two things. Plus, people are absolutely addicted to their pornographic material. They'll just sit there and stare at their phone for hours. I remember going to a truck stop, and there was a guy. I backed in. I seen a guy who was parked next to me. He was so engulfed into his phone, he didn't even notice I even backed next to him. And I went into the back, made my dinner, did whatever I had to do, and I think it was 2 hours later, or not even 2 hours later, I would come out to the front once in a while, because my phone is on its little little perch there, and I would check a message, and I'd look over just because I'm curious. He's still sitting in the same seat staring at his phone. I think I came up to the front of and sat down on my seat several times to check my messages every 15 minutes. I think that guy was in that chair for 4 hours. Even the sun went down, he was still there. He was just staring at his phone. I'm not saying he was staring at pornographic material, but he's absolutely addicted to his phone. And that's another thing. Instead of going to a truck stop and hanging out in the driver's lounge and talking to people now resort to just staring at their phone, sucking up all this social media, all these lies that the media is telling everybody, that, things are going to be wonderful with this new administration. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, regardless, these politicians are not going to make things better. If they're going to do anything good, they're just prolonging the inevitable. Our Lord is coming back. He is returning. He said he's going to return. And before that return, things were going to get very, very, very bad. And the best way to be prepared for this that's coming is to have him in your heart and being guided by him, being guided by the Holy Spirit. That is the purpose of my videos. That is the purpose of this podcast, as well as Truth and Testimony and Truth and Testimony, the podcast. So this is the format I am going to be doing. I am going to be doing my regular podcast. I'll be sharing about things on the highway, what I'm going through, but I'm going to be a little bit more transparent when it comes to my faith, because I want this podcast and my YouTube channel, of course, to reach out to the Christian truck driver out there, because there's a lot of you out there. There's a lot of you out there. There's a lot of Christian truck drivers that have YouTube channels, but they don't share their faith. Maybe they're afraid that people won't want to listen or come to their channel. I understand that, but there's a lot of Christian truck drivers out there, and I want to make sure that I can make have an outlet for them where they can tune into a podcast to know that they're not alone out there. That being a Christian out on the highway is harder than not being a Christian. It is. It's a lot easier, excuse me, to just live a life of sin and doing whatever selfish things that you want. It's a lot easier to live like that because you don't really have to worry about your conscience. You don't have to worry about a whole lot. Being a Christian is a lot more challenging because you have attacks around you constantly. So friends, we will continue with our regular format, the Trucker's Corner, the Rant and Rave, the emails. It's all going to be fun, but we're going to focus a little bit more on the reason why I'm out here, and that is to give God glory, to shine a light, because we are to shine a light in this world. So I hope you enjoy what you hear. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like it. I hope you share the podcast. And I hope you stick around. And if you know another Christian truck driver out there, be sure to share the podcast with them, because I think they will like it.
It's the Trucker Ray Podcast. Rant or rave. Rant or rave.
Well, friends, I do have a rant, and I think a lot of you would agree with it. For those of you that were absolutely disturbed by the opening ceremonies of the Olympics out in Paris, it was horrifying. I didn't personally watch the whole opening ceremonies. I've seen the images. I have read the headlines about it. And as a Christian, I was appalled. I just could not believe that they would even do something like that. Total blasphemy against the Last Supper, and even blasphemy against some of the images they were trying to share in the book of Revelation. It was just absolutely ridiculous. The part I don't understand about this, can someone please explain to me, what does this have to do with sport? By sharing and shoving down our throats what you like to do privately in your own bedroom and this lifestyle that you want to live. It's the part that bothers me. It's not that they just don't sit there and proclaim whatever they want. It's always got to be sexual. It's always got to be inappropriate, where you could see men's genitalia apparently in this opening ceremony. It got so bad that so many people complained about it, that these drag queens were dressed like this, that they had to take the opening ceremonies off of NBC or something, or I don't know if it was NBC or ABC, but they had to remove it. That many people were complaining about it. Now, if you want to have a certain sexual orientation, that is your business. That's between you and God. That is between you and God. That is your preference. But do we have to continue to advertise it, and do we have to continue to indoctrinate our children with this craziness? You don't see regular people out on the street that are straight holding these big parades. You don't see them going to the Olympics and making a big thing and painting their faces and dressing up like clowns. And I mean, the way they dress up and paint themselves up, it's actually scary. I wouldn't want my children to watch that because I would be afraid that they would have nightmares. Why do they have to do this? It's like they're constantly trying to find approval of the way they're living. Now, if it was so normal, why do they need to continuously look for approval? You only need to look for approvals when you're trying to make something, make a point that, hey, I want to do this regardless, and I don't, and deep down inside, I know this is wrong, but I want it to be approved. You guys follow me? We don't, it's just crazy. Like, why do they need to continuously look for approval? And another thing that drives me nuts is at the actual Olympics, they opened up this new pavilion for the alphabet people, athletes. I call them the alphabet people because I don't like to use the acronym because it drives me nuts. So I just call them the alphabet people. So they have a pavilion for the alphabet people, athletes at the Olympics. Wonderful. Do whatever makes you happy. But they had an advertisement on there. And they're saying, for the very first time in Olympic history, we now have a Pride Pavilion where the alphabet people, athletes, can go and hang out in a safe environment. What do you mean a safe environment? You're making them sound like they're an endangered species. Are they? I don't ever hear stories about them being endangered. As a matter of fact, the endangered ones are the children. They're constantly trying to shove this wokeness on. So, for those of you that are believers and even seen any of this stuff, you would agree with me that this was appalling. This had nothing to do with sport. Again, I don't have anything personally against these people. I don't agree with that lifestyle. The Bible speaks harshly about it. And when I say harshly, I mean harshly. Abomination is a big word. It is a powerful word. And when the Lord says it's an abomination, it's an abomination. But if they want to live that life, if you want to live that life, that's fine. But must we have these parades? Must we go to the world's biggest stage like the Olympics and mock God with your choice of lifestyle? There's something wrong. Again, what I said at my opening, friends, if we're not in the last days, I don't know what this is. And that is my rant for the day.
This is the reality of trucking.
What am I doing?
It's the Trucker Ray Podcast. Mailbag. Mailbag.
Yes, it's time for another email. This one actually came to me a few weeks ago, and I do apologize to David who sent this for the delay, but like I said, we didn't have any podcasts out. I didn't want to read this on one of my regular videos because it pertains to the podcast, so here we go. It says, hello, Truckery. I recently caught up to all your episodes on the Truckery podcast. I'm listening to you on Apple Podcast, and I have subscribed. I wanted to thank you very much for all your efforts and all the little projects that you have. Believe me, David, I've got a lot of them. I've been a long-time viewer on your YouTube channel, and now I can listen to you when I'm driving down the road whenever you put a podcast out, and I really like it. I am an ex-truck driver. I have been retired 18 years, and I absolutely love the segment called Trucker's Corner with Trucker Glenn. I really enjoy his wisdom and humor. Both of you have a very good chemistry together, and it's a joy to listen to. Just wanted to say how much I enjoy the podcast, and I hope you and Glenn both have a wonderful day, and that you never know, maybe one day we can have a chat on your podcast, because I do have 35 years experience and wouldn't mind sharing a few stories of my own with you. Thank you and God bless. David from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you, David. Man, that was a great email. Thank you so much. And if you want to send me an email, send it to truckerray7@gmail.com, truckerray7@gmail.com, and we'll get it on the podcast. Yes, you are listening to the Truck Ray Podcast, and I am coming to you right now. This is the joys of radio. I am now coming to you from Hollister, California. Weren't you just in Rio Rico? Yes, I was. But now I am in Hollister. We've elapsed 2 days, and we are now out here in this beautiful little spot, which I love. And you've got, any of you that have followed my channel, you probably have seen a video that I've made on the Casa de Fruta. It's like a little oasis, a little getaway. And right now, if I could just help you picture this, the hills are in front of me. Unfortunately, the hills are a bit brown because they need some rain out here. But this parking lot here is loaded with horse trailers, where the trucks usually park. There must be something going on. I'm guessing Salinas or maybe even San Francisco area. I don't know where these guys are all heading, but they've all stopped here for a little bit of a break. Yeah, a lot of horse trailers. A lot of pretty ladies, too. I'm a single guy. I could admire. I mean, I love to admire God's handiwork. Absolutely. But anyway, no, so I am here, and the reason why I'm here is because we are reloading probably in the central area of California. And I asked the management if I can come here and spend my weekend here and do a reset, and he said, sure. So I am here, and I absolutely love this place. It is the atmosphere here is just so nice. It's very calming. It's fun. You see lots of families and kids running around. They have a little train. It's called the Casa do Choo Choo. Plus, they have the sweet shop, and they have their wine and deli, and they have the restaurant. The only issue that I'm finding here, which is kind of sad, whenever I've come here, I've always enjoyed two things. I either get one of their sandwiches, which I haven't attempted yet, for good reasons, or either that or I'll go into the sweet shop where they have the ice cream. Yesterday they had a lineup going right out the door. I couldn't believe it. I would go in there and I would grab a piece of fudge. And usually I think the fudge was about $6 for one piece of fudge, which is incredibly expensive. But it was good. So I go in, I get here yesterday, I go inside, I'm looking around, the lineup is going out the door, and I'm like, this is insanity. I'll come here on Sunday and buy myself a piece of fudge. But I wanted to go and take a look and see what they had. Two things I like to get. I either like to get the fudge or the pies. They make the pies right here, and they're amazing. My favorite is the peach pie. It's so good. Freshly made right here in their restaurant. $17 or $19 for a pie, which is still pretty high, but it's the same price as it's always been. To me, that's a treat, and hey, why not? But I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to sit in this massive lineup for a pie. Let's go find out, to go find myself a piece of fudge, and maybe I can check out quick and get out of here. They used to have the fudge wrapped in cellophane, all right, where they made it in their restaurant. They wrapped it in cellophane. I think it was $6 something for a piece of fudge. I think that was around the price. Might have been $6.50. I don't know. Since this new minimum wage increase in California, which is really good for people that are working in California, not so good for the consumer, prices have gone through the roof. If you remember me previously talking about the Subway sandwiches where they had all the prices taped off with the new prices, they didn't even change the board, they just had the new prices on there. It was insane how much it was to get a Subway sandwich. Of course, I don't buy any fast food at all in California. Okay, did you hear what I said? $6 something for a piece of fudge. I go in there yesterday, $12.99 for a piece of fudge. It says, buy two, hey, get the third one free. Wow, what a deal. $24 American for 3 pieces of fudge, which would cost you probably maybe $10 anywhere else. $24. Now, here's the kicker here. Because we're Canadian and I'm using my Canadian credit card, with the exchange, that's $32 for 3 pieces of fudge. And I'm just thinking, you got to be kidding me. So I come here to my favorite place and I can't even get a piece of fudge. I was disappointed beyond belief. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. And it's because of the increase of the minimum wage. I don't know what it is now, $15, $20 an hour. You know, Newsom, I don't know. He thought he was doing a good thing, but I think he knew darn well what he was doing. He's trying to bankrupt the state. This man is just, I don't know. I don't get it. If I lived in California, I'd move. I'd move to like Idaho or something. I would get out of here so fast. With the how much everything is. And I've gone through the store, I've gone through the deli. The prices are really high. Today I just went into the Chevron, which if you've been to the Casa de Fruta, you know what I'm talking about. There's a fueling station and a charging station right there, and then just away past the parking lot is all the area, the carousel and everything. It's a wonderful place to visit with your kids. You just mortgage your house before you come here if you plan to spend any money, because it's really expensive. I think Disneyland is looked at as a non-profit organization compared to this place. It is so expensive here now. There was a bag of popcorn I seen at the Chevron. And of course, it's packaged by the Casa de Fruta. And I don't know how much was in this bag. It was a small bag. It was a small bag of popcorn. And it was cheese popcorn. I love cheese popcorn. I think it was $8 American. I could eat that entire bag in about 3 minutes. It was so small. And I'm like, this is insane. And they're just laying out all the products out in the store there. And that's nothing compared to what they have supplied over at the area where the wine and deli area is, and, you know, the carousel and everything. These guys are making a fortune. An absolute fortune. And of course, when you come here with your family and you're on vacation and you stop in here, you're going to want to buy something. I think the ice cream is like $4 a scoop. They had the lineup going right out the door yesterday. So I'm not trying to say anything negative. Well, I know that sounds negative. I'm not trying to say anything terrible about this place. The Casa de Fruta is a nice place to come to if you're a trucker, or even if you're a camper or you're traveling. It's a nice place to stop. They got the peacocks, the roosters, and the chickens running around. It's a nice atmosphere. Bring your own food. Bring your own ice cream. Bring your own food. And just walk around and enjoy the atmosphere. I really get an absolute joy watching people have a good time. I was thinking this the other day when I was walking around here yesterday. You know, during the time of COVID, that was a very, very, very terrible time. It really bothered me because I get so much joy out of watching people sitting at a picnic table. When I drive by a rest area and I see people sitting at a picnic table having their lunch, for some crazy idea, I get joy out of that, because I like watching people enjoying themselves. I do. When I see people having a good time, it brings me joy. During COVID, when they were locking everybody down, it was a miserable time. I did not like it. It was terrible. So now, when I see people walking around with their children, I see the Casa de Choo Choo going by, I get a lot of joy out of that. And, you know, the train, I don't know if the prices went up on the train. Hopefully it didn't. But I guess, you know, they think, you know what, we're here with the kids. Let's have a good time. If we're paying $5 or $6 a scoop of ice cream, who cares? You know, we're out for the day. We're having a good time. That's great. But that's where I am. That's where I am. I'm over here in Hollister. We're waiting for a load, maybe on Monday, maybe Tuesday. I don't know when the deal is. That's why I wanted to come here, is because I was actually asked to go to Santanella and hang out at the Loves over there. And that's why I asked my manager, can I just go to the Casa de Fruta? He knows of this place. He's an ex-trucker. He knows. Well, he's still a driver. He still has his license. He knows this place. He knows it very well. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I get to hang out here. Beautiful little area. Like I said, I love the sound of the peacocks. And if you've never been here before, do a search, Casa de Fruta, Hollister, California. This is a nice place. You can park here. Your truck can park here. Lots of parking. Lots of things to see. There is good food, good restaurant. But like I said, you need a lot of money when you come here. So do try to remember that. But anyway, it's been a while. It's been a while, and I really want to have a chat with my buddy Glenn, my buddy Trucker Glenn. So why don't we get into the next Trucker's Corner with the big guy?
With over 50 years of accident-free, long-haul experience under his belt, plus an extra 20 pounds. This is Trucker's Corner with Trucker Glenn.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Trucker's Corner. With me, of course, Trucker Glenn. Trucker Glenn, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm great. I've had a little bit of a respite here from the program, and I really missed it.
Yeah,
I'm
you know
kind of
what?
anxious.
I couldn't do it without you. I haven't done any episodes since you've been on. I've just been doing the videos. I've given the podcast a bit of a rest, but I just thinking, you know what? It's time to get her going again.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to see you come to your senses.
Yeah. Yeah, right, eh? Well, you know what? I think today is going to be a really good program because, the title of this episode, Driver, You Are a Professional. And why are we using that title today, my friend?
Well, because they should be a professional out there. They got a lot of responsibility. They're in control of a lot of weight and a lot of speed and whatever else that gets in the way of the highways and byways.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know as well as I do, there's not much professionalism out there right now. And that needs to change. But I think also the whole industry needs to change, right from dispatchers to drivers to even the people that own these companies, because it is understandably very, very hard to make a living in the trucking industry these days, as we all know. So there's lots of corners being cut and lots of unsafe corners being cut, such as forced dispatch. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. In cruising through the internet, there's a lot of chatter on it. There's a lot of talk about, why is this happening? Why is there no laws in place for these dispatchers to be responsible and accountable for intimidating and belittling and humiliating a driver to do something that he's not comfortable or feeling safe to do?
I think the key word is intimidation.
Yes. And unfortunately, I've said on your program before, it's better to say no than lose your license and your job and your freedom after you've run into a bus and killed a whole bunch of people. And unfortunately, that's what happens. You're not at your best when you're tired. And I think that, I've been seeing on the news a lot of truck accidents because either they're going on the wrong roads because of permit difficulties. They're not following the permit route, and a lot of times the dispatch is saying, "Get it there. You're already an hour late. Get it there," and the driver goes into a panic and takes a shortcut, and bang.
Yeah.
And they're saying on the radio, the driver. Well, it gets down to the dispatcher, the owner, the shipper, the receiver, everybody involved should be accountable for all these mishaps and accidents that happen. And it's just unfortunate. I remember in the old days, they tried to force dispatch us, and of course we all were from the good old boys club. We said, well, you picked the right guy for this load. And got down to our favorite spot where we sleep, and man, did we have a good sleep. Load still got there. The customer was still happy.
Yeah.
Truck wasn't upside down. You didn't run over anybody. And unfortunately, it's just like a broken record. It just keeps happening over and over and over and over. I feel sorry for the new guys because they're afraid if they say no, they'll lose their job.
Yeah, but they intimidate them and say, you know what, you can clean out your truck when you get back if you don't do this. Then they feel like they're being forced to do it. And now they're having to drive whatever miles to get to their destination. And they're doing it under that kind of stress. They've got that now in the back of their head. Now they're distracted. And now this is a danger to them. Would you not agree?
Oh, yeah.
And to everybody on the road.
That's right. And you're when you're not rested and you're not, haven't had a good meal and a good, good sleep, it's you're definitely not at your best, and you make mistakes. I remember one time I was so tired I drove through a red light. Didn't even see it till I was 3/4 of the way through the intersection.
Wow.
Fortunately, nothing happened, but that's just what happens when you're distracted. I read an article today on the Humboldt accident where a new driver ran into a bus. A lot of lives lost there, and this guy, I don't think he even should have been driving that the Super Bee with that.
He had no experience, did he?
No experience.
None.
And this guy says, just get in it and go, you'll be fine. Well, you got to know that when you get, when you lift off that load, you already know you got a problem if you because it's so different.
And just so people, in case they don't know, Humboldt is a town in, I do believe is it in Manitoba or Saskatchewan?
It's in Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. And this was a bus accident that happened on there, I think it was a couple of years ago. It was a hockey team that was on there, a junior hockey team. And they were broadsided, or a bus broadsided them, one or the other. Someone ran a red light. I'm pretty sure the driver was at fault. And it literally killed most of the people in the bus. It was tragic. And the guy ends up having next to no experience at all.
Yeah, and here's the kicker: the trucking firm got a fine. The driver went to jail and is going to be deported. So the company, it's a fine, but now there's your life. You've got that hanging over your head where you've killed all these people. You probably will never get another driving job, and it's just really sad that this has not changed in the industry. And anybody listen to me out there that's had 10 years or better on the road knows exactly what I'm talking about. Qualicum, do you want to take this load? No. You get a phone call. What did you say no for? Well, because you asked me, do I want to take it or not? No, I don't. I don't have proper tires on my truck to drive the roads that you're asking me to drive. Now, had I been 16 years old and threatened, I probably would have done it.
You would have done it, yeah.
Yeah, but, I like saying no.
Or a new driver. I remember working for a company, the one that we were working with together. It was just at the end of winter where I joined up, but the tires were really bald. But, nowadays, I would have never driven that truck with the tires like that.
No.
And they were telling me, well, you still have this much tread on it. You're okay. And I'm like, okay, but it wasn't safe.
No. And unfortunately, even the big companies, there's a lot of equipment that isn't up to snuff. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I know it's hard to make money out there, and you got to cut every corner that you can, and you can't put brand new tires on a truck every time a driver is having a meltdown. But a lot of the trailers, and one of the companies you and I work for, a lot of the trailers should have been condemned a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest, largest trucking companies in Canada.
Yeah.
And tires, they're sending you in where you're getting a foot of snow on these passes, 2-lane road passes overnight, and you're just asking for trouble because you don't have the proper equipment.
Mm-hmm.
and then you get chains that somebody threw back on the truck that there's 5 or 6 links broken, cross links broken on it, and of course the new drivers don't know to check it or
even see if they have a key for the chains.
Yeah. I don't know. When I sit back and think, if I'm having a beer in my front room and I'm thinking about some of the stuff that we went through, I just shake my head, and I'm amazed I'm still here to talk about it, because we did a lot of crazy stuff in the old days, but of course now, because traffic and everything, you can't do that.
Speaking of the old days, okay, like we're titling this, Driver, You're a Professional. We're trying to tell you that you are a professional. We need to act like a professional in every way. Remember the olden days, and I remember seeing this on TV. I was too young to remember this, or even at one point I wasn't even here yet. But I remember seeing commercials in the 70s of truck drivers wearing almost a dress shirt with a tie. Mm-hmm. And you see bus drivers with a tie. You see the Walmart drivers in the U.S. with a nice dress shirt. And they have their patches and everything. Back in the day, even truck drivers even wore like a little cap. They were really professionals. They looked good. They looked clean. Nowadays, you see these guys at truck stops with junk all over their dash. They're walking around in flip-flops. They don't care about the industry, and they're leaving junk everywhere they park. It's not a profession anymore. And I'm really hoping that we can save that. That's why we're saying, driver, you're a professional. Can we just share our professionalism and let people know that it's not gone? It's not completely gone, even though it's almost dead. Now it's just a regular job. It's not a profession. I mean, back in the day, did you ever have to wear dress shirts or anything?
Yeah, we did when we worked for Reimer Transport. We had a full uniform. We didn't have a tie, but we had a nice, it was a cowboy dress shirt, and a nice jacket and pants. Everything matched.
Probably the shorts in the summertime match too?
I didn't wear shorts, Ray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't wear anything? You just wore your underwear?
I just wore my underwear. That's fine. But I worked with a guy who came to work. This is when I first started driving. We were driving the whole Princeton Highway. And he would come. He had dress shoes on with a nice polish on them. He had slacks. And he had a nice white dress shirt on. And this guy looked the same when he got back to the terminal. I don't know if he had an anti-dirt stuff on his clothes or something, that the dirt wouldn't get on his clothes.
Anti-dirt.
Yeah. He looked like that all the time, and he was truly a professional. A lot of times I tried to be like him, and of course I couldn't. I didn't have the experience, but this guy was top-notch, and you didn't have to ask if he was a professional, and he knew what he was doing, because he looked the part.
Yeah. Just so people know, when I first started driving, the very first company I went to, that's where I met Glenn. And I will say this, that when I first met Glenn, I had a lot of respect for him. I hadn't even talked to him because of his appearance. He was dressed well, and I remember him showing, like during our conversation, you showed me the truck that you were in. His bed was laid out. It looked like a maid had made it. It was so neat in that truck. It was like a little, I don't know, like a little hotel room. It was so neat. And right away,
nice. And
it smelled nice. That first appearance was everything. I'm like, you know what? I want my truck to look like this. And I'll tell you something, that did rub off on me, because now I try to make my truck look as clean as possible. But every morning I get up, I make sure that my clothes are clean, and I always give myself a little shot of cologne. I know it's crazy. There's no one in my truck but me. But I always, when I smell good, I feel good. And when you look good, you feel good. And when you get out of your truck and you do fueling or whatever it is you have to do, or you interact with shippers and receivers or your office people, they notice those things. They smell that. Like, this guy's a pro. He cares about his appearance, and that goes a long way. But if you end up looking like, I mean, I've seen truck drivers with stains all over their clothes and they're fueling up. I'm like, how can you even look like that? Because a lot of these guys don't care anymore. It's like they don't care. Yeah.
Well, it's attitude, if It's like when you have you're driving your car and it's all muddy and dirty. You'll drive through mud puddles, you don't care. But you get it washed and you drive around the mud puddles and you drive it a whole lot different.
That's a good analogy.
And that's what I used. Do you know I had a mechanic climb in my truck one time and he went, "Whoa, wow, you don't see many of these anymore." And I said, "Any of what?" And he said, "This truck is unbelievable. It's like it just drove off the showroom floor." And I kind of made me feel good. And I don't do that for compliments. I do it for me. But if a state patrol or RCMP officer or a scale master gets into your truck, they already know you're a professional when they open the door. They don't have to, And same with the dress. If you shave every other day and you try to look as neat as you can.
Have you noticed anything?
Yes, I did, Ray.
I bought a razor and I now have a complete. I don't do the 5 o'clock shadow thing anymore.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something. It makes a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah.
And another thing too, customs. Like, I got to deal with U.S. customs and Mexican customs. And the Mexican customs, when you stop there, they go into your truck. They want to look around. Yeah. And if your truck looks nice, well, I mean, if it's a biohazard, they're not going to want to go in there. But they're going to have a lot more respect for you. Like, they come into my truck. They will look around for about not even 30 seconds and then go back out again. Yeah. If it's totally in disarray, they're probably going to look at this doesn't look very good. So you're right. It's important, not only for not only for scales, but your safety department, in case they want to look in your truck. That's going to determine how long you're going to have a job. But customs, like if you cross the border, it's huge. It really is important.
Yeah, it's there's so many aspects in the job that that have been let go, and unfortunately, I blame the companies themselves, because they set the standards. They say you cannot work here if you can't shower. You cannot work here if you've got a lot of speeding tickets. You cannot work here if every second word is the F word. You got to conduct yourself. You're a representative of this company, and as such, you
never hear that now.
No,
you know what they might say? You can't work here if you get speeding tickets, because it goes against their profile. They don't care how you look. They don't care how you smell. They don't care about anything. I know. Do you remember at that company we worked for, Richard went into a truck, and it was so bad, he almost threw up. He opened up the door, and it was disgusting, and he got rid of that guy. Give him credit for that. But I've seen other companies that will just, oh, that's disgusting, and they walk away. I'm like, well, this is your truck. What are you going to do about that? So, I mean, me personally, if I was a owner of a company or a manager, I'd get rid of people like that had no respect for my vehicle.
One of the jobs I left, the safety supervisor said, "Can you take this truck over at Glenn's truck out right away, because we got a load that's got to get out there. I'm sorry, we'll get it cleaned up for you when you get back in." And he said, "Have you seen inside that truck?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, you go have a look at it. It doesn't need to be cleaned." So it exudes professionalism.
Yeah.
And also when getting back to the refusing forced dispatch, like I said, this is your life. It's your license. The companies may get a $5,000 or $10,000 fine, but the driver could go to jail for a long time if he falls asleep. And of course, with all the electronics in the trucks now, they know you can't lie anymore. They know if you're falling asleep.
What about the ones that try to force you to fudge your logs? And they might say, well, you can't really do that with electric or ELDs. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can. You can do the same thing. Like, what do you say to a new driver, whether he's just out of driving school or he's come across from another country and he's with a company that is trying to pull this crap on him? What would you say that he can do? Because he's worried about getting deported, right? Yeah. Say he comes over on one of these programs, right? Mm-hmm. Now these guys have got him by, what? I mean, they can tell him to do whatever he wants. Now he's worried about getting deported. How does he deal with that?
Well, number one, here's a good thing. Everybody's got a cell phone. Record the conversation.
Yeah.
Ask for it in writing on your Qualcomm or whatever they have in their trucks nowadays. And take the load. Don't argue with them. Take the load. And the first scale you get to, pull in there and say, this is what's going on. What can we do about it? 9 times out of 10, they'll shut the truck down and they'll get a hold of the company, and they get hold of the HR safety department. And there's a lot of hell to pay over that. You can't be doing this sort of thing with the amount of traffic, and especially now it's summertime. All the
but what happens if the company tells the scale gets a hold of the company, and then you know what they're going to say? Well, the driver is the one that has the responsibility. He didn't have to take it out. They're going to throw him under the bus.
Yeah, but you've got your conversation recorded.
Yeah, if you do.
If you do, that's
how hard it is to get.
And it's a smart thing.
Well, you know how hard it is to get an app that records telephone conversations? You have to buy everything now. You can't even just get one. Like you said, it's probably better to get it in writing. Mm-hmm. Get it in an email or a text. Play stupid. Because, I don't understand. Can you explain this to me? Yeah.
I know it's not a problem that's going to go away anytime soon, but it's a problem that it's going to get worse and worse and worse, because now it's just a paycheck to people. It's not a profession anymore. It's how much money can I make and how quickly can I make it? And unfortunately, it's bad things happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the nice thing about it, too, like what you were saying, you get caught, something happens, you're not supposed to be on the road, a drunk driver hits you, and there's a major accident because you're not supposed to be on the road. It's your fault. It will be your fault because you shouldn't have been there in the first place. That's not worth it, because you can always get another job. But if you end up killing somebody, like you said, you could end up in jail. I heard a RCMP officer one time. I was stopped at an accident, and the guy in the semi-truck rear-ended a whole bunch of cars and killed a couple of people. And they went back 1 full year on his log, and they said that this guy wasn't even supposed to be anywhere in the vicinity, and he got charged with the accident because he wasn't even supposed to be there. Because automatically, you hold a Class 1, you're at fault. Joe Public doesn't know any better, but it's like an airplane pilot when he crashes the plane. He can't blame the passengers. He's in full control. Yeah.
And like I said, it's Russian roulette, and I've always been very fortunate in my life. I'm not going to say that I didn't do anything that I shouldn't have done, but I was just very fortunate that nothing happened. And as I got older, I just thought that this is just not worth it. I never had any speeding tickets or accidents on my license, and that's something to be proud of when you've got the amount of miles on that I got on.
You know what? You made a really important point there, and how many drivers don't think about this? They can go how far back?
1 year, he said. 1 full year.
Yeah, because you know what? Somebody will, because when you're on the road and you have a DOT inspection, they can look back as 14 days, and you think, anything past that, fine. They can't see it. But if they can go back a whole year, if it gets audited, you're in trouble. You can't hide that.
And I think, like I said before, these companies should be, I know they here in British Columbia, they've had overpass hits. I think they've had like 5 or 6 in the last year.
I think that train bridge over there on Highway 1 is crazy.
Yeah. They've started now suspending licenses of these companies because these guys are, for whatever reason, they're going off their routes and they're hitting these low bridges, and the truth finally comes out. Well, they were told to get there because the load was late, so they just we'll just go down this route.
They weren't thinking.
And a lot of pressure from everybody involved, and I think that's what happens. Or they just don't understand. They give you these routes for a reason, and that's because some guys don't even measure their loads. And again, when I was watching this on the news, I said to my wife, that should be up to the shipper. Say, measure your load before you go, so we know how high it is, and whether they give him his paperwork or not. If the guy doesn't know what he's doing, they shouldn't be giving him his paperwork to take the load.
You know what? That's another good point, because I think there's only twice that I've ever picked up a load at a shipper, And they refused to give me the paperwork until I went and scaled it so they know it's not overweight. That's only happened twice. And that's something all of them should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but hopefully people will you just have to think. This profession is 90% think.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And preparation.
Think of the consequences, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. So, 30 seconds or whatever, do you want to just sum it up, you know, some advice to the new drivers that, you know, how important it is to be a professional driver?
Yeah, it's you know, you will go very, very, very far in this industry. You will be a wanted commodity if you conduct yourself professionally, you look good, you handle your equipment good, you look after your equipment. When somebody says, "Can you do this?" and it's not safe, you just say no. Sorry. You get fired. You go to the next job. Why did you leave that job? Well, they fired me because they wanted me to run over my hours, and I said no. So they fired me. Mm-hmm. You'll be more admired for that than you will if you've run over somebody.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Very well said, my friend. Well, it's certainly good to have you back doing this with me.
Do you like my new truck, by the way?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the big pipes on there, the stacks.
Yeah. Straight
That's
pipes.
something I can see you driving, too.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to be driving something like that.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You may be back in this industry sooner than you think.
I doubt it.
Well, I'm not driving, but you never know. You may be doing something more than that. Yeah. But if any of you have a question for Trucker Glenn, truckerglenn10@gmail.com. You can send those emails, and Glenn will get back to you. And we'd love to hear from you because we're always open to new topics. And especially if you have a comment, whether it's a question or a comment, or you just want to say how much you enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. Trucker Glenn, it's been a pleasure as usual. We'll do this again very soon. Take care, my friend.
Mailbag.
Hey friends, it's time for another email. This one is from Neil in Boise, Idaho. I like Boise, Idaho. I travel through there all the time. Okay, what does he say here? He says, I'm in Boise, Idaho. I know you travel the I-84 all the time. Wanted your input on a thread that I read online. A driver posted that a post-trip isn't necessary or an inspection on the end of your day. Can you elaborate on this? Well, Neil, yes. It is required by DOT and the USA. I don't know what it is in Canada, that you have to do a post-trip. Yes, absolutely you do. Even if it's like 3 minutes, you have to do one. I would still do one anyway, just, you know, for your own conscience. You walk around, make sure your tires are inflated, make sure, you know, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing dangling underneath your trailer or your truck. I would still do one anyway. Some companies don't require it, but I would still do one. I do one. I still do a post-trip inspection on my truck and trailer every time I stop. I walk around, like I said, I tap my tires, make sure everything's good. I look and make sure nothing's leaking underneath. I check my differential to make sure it's not too hot. I do all those things. So absolutely, I would do a post-trip inspection on your truck and trailer every single time you shut down for the night. Just, you know, to make you feel better, to make sure that you know that everything is good to go. So I hope that helps, my friend. Well, my dear friends, I hope that you have enjoyed the podcast. If you have any questions for Trucker Glenn, it's truckerglenn10@gmail.com. Send him a question. He's long-winded. He loves to talk. So send him a question for a future broadcast. And if you have a question for me as well, it's truckerray7@gmail.com, truckerray7@gmail.com. And let me say it's a pleasure to have you all listening. God bless you all in the name of Yeshua. Until next time, bye for now.
been listening to the Trucker Ray podcast. To contact Trucker Ray, send him an email to truckerray7@gmail.com. That's truckerray7@gmail.com. You can also check out his YouTube channel. Open YouTube in your browser and search Trucker Ray. It's that simple. Until next time, be safe out there.